Have you ever made a choice that just didn't make sense, even to you? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on something called prospect theory. It's this incredible idea that explains the hidden and sometimes kind of weird logic behind the decisions you make every single day. We're about to crack the code on your own brain.
So let's start with a question you've definitely felt before, even if you couldn't put your finger on it. Why does losing $50 feel just awful? Way worse than the little buzz you get from finding $50 feels good. Logically, it's the same amount of money, right? But it doesn't feel that way. That little puzzle is exactly what we're here to solve.
You see, for the longest time, economic theories basically treated us like perfectly rational robots. The old school idea was that we always weigh the odds and pick whatever's going to make us the wealthiest in the end. But that whole $50 problem shows that's just not how we're wired. We don't think in terms of our total net worth. Nope, we think in terms of gains and losses from where we're standing right now.
So, if those old models were wrong, what was right? Well, the answer didn't come from economists. It came from a couple of brilliant psychologists who decided to actually map out the real, messy, and fascinating logic of the human mind.
Yeah, before 1979, economics was pretty much stuck on that rational robot model. It was called expected utility theory. But then Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky dropped a bombshell with their paper on prospect theory. It completely changed the game and kicked off this whole new field called behavioral economics, which finally admitted, hey, psychology and our feelings have a lot to do with our decisions.
So here it is, the core insight, the big idea. We don't think in absolute numbers. It doesn't really matter to your brain if you have $1,000 or $10,000. What it's obsessed with is your starting point, your reference point, and whether you're going up or down from there. Every single outcome gets framed as either a win or a loss.
Okay, so how does our brain actually do the math on these wins and losses? It turns out it's not random at all. It follows a few very specific hidden rules that are incredibly powerful. And the first rule, the most important one, the king of them all, is loss aversion. This is a big one. It's the simple idea that psychologically, losses just loom way, way larger than gains. Our brains are hardwired to avoid pain much more than they're driven to seek pleasure.
And get this isn't just a hunch, it's been measured. Study after study shows that the psychological sting of a loss is about 2 to 2.5 times more powerful than the joy you feel from an equivalent gain. That is a massive, massive difference.
Just look at it this way. If gaining $100 gives you, say, a +10 on some emotional scale, losing that same $100 isn't a -10. No way. It's more like a -22. They're not even in the same ballpark. The emotional gut punch of a loss is just in a totally different league.
Now, this all gets wrapped up in what scientists call our value function. It sounds kind of technical, but it really boils down to 3 key things. 1, as we said, everything's relative to that starting point. 2, we get used to gains. The more you get, the less exciting each little bit feels. And 3, this is the kicker. To avoid a loss, our brains flip a switch, and we suddenly become willing to take crazy risks. Let's make that real. The thrill of going from $0 to $100, it's huge. But the thrill of going from $1,000 to $1,100, it's nice, but the excitement just isn't the same. That's diminishing sensitivity. But on the flip side, with losses, our sensitivity stays cranked up. The pain of any loss feels so sharp that we'll gamble and take big chances just to avoid it.
Now, here's where it gets really fun. These little mental glitches aren't just things psychologists talk about. Oh no, they're powerful tools that are being used in the real world, in finance, in marketing, even in government policy every single day.
You ever wonder why people hold on to a losing stock for way too long? That's the disposition effect, and it's pure prospect theory. We hate the idea of making a loss official, so we'll hang on hoping it turns around. We're taking a risk to avoid the pain. On the other hand, we sell our winning stocks way too early just to lock in that good feeling of a sure gain.
And in marketing, it's everywhere. That limited time offer with the countdown clock, that don't miss out banner, that's not about selling you the joy of getting something. It's about triggering your fear of losing the opportunity. And as we now know, that fear is a much, much stronger motivator.
But this can also be used for good. Policymakers use it to nudge us into making better choices. Think about your retirement plan at work. They often make saving the default, so you have to actively opt out. Why? Because taking that money out of your paycheck feels like a loss, and our aversion to that feeling makes us more likely to just stick with the plan and save for our future.
This also explains another super weird mental quirk called the endowment effect. The second you own something, even a cheap coffee mug, you value it more. Giving it up is no longer just a transaction. Your brain frames it as a loss. That's why you'll demand way more money to sell that mug than you'd ever have paid to buy it in the first place. It's kind of like the IKEA effect. We overvalue things we've put our own effort into, because losing them would hurt even more.
So what does this all add up to? What's the big picture? It means our irrationality isn't just random noise. It follows patterns. It's predictable. And honestly, that changes everything.
At the end of the day, prospect theory totally flipped economics on its head. It proved that human decision-making, while not always rational in the classic sense, is systematically and predictably irrational. Our choices aren't chaotic, they're grounded in a deep, shared psychology.
All right, so if you walk away with anything today, remember this. First, all your decisions are anchored to where you're starting from. Second, you hate losing more than twice as much as you love winning. Third, this bias is quietly influencing you everywhere, from the mall to the stock market. And finally, and this is the good news, just knowing that this bias exists is the first crucial step to making smarter choices.
So I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. Now that you know the hidden rules pulling the strings inside your own head, what irrational choice are you going to catch yourself making later today? Keep an eye out. I think you'll be surprised at what you find.